Hey guys, welcome to another movie review. Today I'm going to be talking about the new Transformers spin-off film, Bumblebee. Bumblebee is a film that is supposed to be a prequel to the very first Transformers film from 2007, and this film is supposed to be in 1987. That's when the film takes place, and it kind of tells us a story as to how Bumblebee got to Earth before the events of the first Transformers film. Because for those who remember the first Transformers film, he was found in a car dealership lot that Shia LaBeouf's character found in the first film. And so this film kind of depicts what exactly was happening with Bumblebee. How did he get to Earth? Why was he at Earth? Why was he the only kind of Transformer here on Earth to begin with when that film started, and not the other Transformer characters? So this film kind of explores that idea while also giving Bumblebee kind of his own origin story as to how he got to Earth, what he was doing, why he was here, and all that kind of stuff. So in this film, Bumblebee, though, Bumblebee, for first and foremost, is sent to Earth. And don't worry, this is a non-spoiler review, but I'm just kind of giving you the setup as to kind of what the film is and why things are happening the way they are and that kind of stuff. I won't try to give away spoilers as usual in all my reviews. But for the most part, Bumblebee is here because he has to set up base. Planet Cybertron is kind of slowly getting into a phase, and for those who don't know what Cybertron, that's kind of where like the Transformers live. That's the planet they live on. So Optimus Prime, who's kind of the lead character of the show and all the Transformers versions, basically sends Bumblebee to Earth to set up base. Basically to kind of find a way for the Transformers to kind of successfully transition to Earth, kind of blend into Earth in any way they can, in case trouble like this happens again, because Cybertron's under attack. And so basically, Bumblebee gets to Earth. He's trying to set up base. Obviously, a lot of people don't know what this big robot thing is, so they just start attacking Bumblebee. They go over kind of how he lost his voice box because he's able to talk at the beginning of the movie. They go over kind of why he became this car that we all know him to be and stuff like that. And for those who are wondering why he's two different cars in this film, they also go over that. So if you're watching the trailers and like, wait, I thought he was this Camaro thing. Why is he this Beetle? So they do go over that kind of stuff as to why he started as a Beetle but became a Camaro and stuff like that. So they go over all that kind of stuff. But for the most part, the real story of the film kicks in when a character played by Hailee Steinfeld named Charlie is basically looking for a car. She's 18 years old. She doesn't have her father anymore. Her father passed away, so she's kind of just living with her mom and her stepdad. And she doesn't really get along with the stepdad too well. She has a younger brother who's kind of on and off. They kind of get along sometimes, but not really. But basically, she's 18 years old. She's trying to get her own car. She's driving this little moped thing around that's really not very reliable. She works at this carnival where she makes corn dogs and popsicles and all that kind of stuff all day. So she really needs a form of transportation that's really more reliable. So basically, she goes to this junkyard and finds this Beetle that's obviously Bumblebee in disguise. That's what Bumblebee became when he first came to Earth, kind of this Beetle car. And so basically, Hailee Steinfeld does whatever she can to get this car, pay for it, convince the guy who's running the junkyard that that car can be hers. So upon getting the car, she finds out that obviously this Beetle is also a Transformer who's Bumblebee. So she's trying to figure out who Bumblebee is, kind of go over kind of how he got that name and stuff like that. Um, but for the most part in this film's also about the Decepticons, who are kind of the bad Transformers, finding out where Bumblebee is. They're trying to figure out where Optimus Prime went after the Cybertron attack. So things happen on Earth that causes signals to go up into outer space, into the satellites and stuff. And so the Decepticons are able to detect that. And so basically they go to Earth. They try to find Bumblebee, try to get answers out of him as to where Optimus Prime is and what exactly Bumblebee's doing on Earth and stuff like that. So throughout the course of this film, Bumblebee has to survive these Decepticon attacks after them kind of going after him to figure out where Optimus Prime is, while also becoming Hailee Steinfeld's friend and establishing a friendship with that, really kind of making sure he's in the right hands on Earth, that he's not viewed as this bad robot or anything like that. So that's basically what happens over the course of Bumblebee, is Bumblebee establishing a friendship with this young girl while also trying to make sure he's not causing too much trouble with the Decepticon attack that's moved from Cybertron now to Earth. So overall, guys, I enjoyed Bumblebee quite a bit. We really haven't had a good Transformers film in a while, so I'm relieved to tell you that This is the first good Transformers movie that's come out in quite a while. I personally liked the first Transformers film in 2007 a lot. I think it's a relatively good film. It's not an amazing movie. I'm not a huge Michael Bay fan to begin with, but I did really enjoy that first Transformers film. I think the two things that really stood out to me in that movie the most was Bernie Mac's performance and Anthony Anderson's performance. I thought the two of them were just absolutely hilarious in that movie. I liked the second one. It's more of a guilty pleasure kind of movie for me. It's not a great movie. There's certainly things about it that I don't care for. Dark of the Moon, which was the third Transformers film, I really didn't like at all. That's kind of when I gave up on the franchise. Didn't even bother watching Age of Extinction or what was the other one? The Last Night, I think it was called. So didn't even bother watching those just because I pretty much gave up on the franchise by the third film. But I was intrigued by this film because I heard it had a different director. It had Travis Knight from Kubo and the Two Strings, and I was just kind of curious to see what it was going to do, what it was going to be about, how they were going to handle Bumblebee getting his own film because the character couldn't speak throughout Transformers. So I was kind of wondering how they were going to incorporate that and make him the lead character and stuff like that. So once again, thankfully, I'm here to tell you that Bumblebee is a very good movie. It's a very good Transformers film. And for those, depending on how you view the Transformers films, I personally like the first film and parts of the second film. And this is probably the best Transformers movie since those two came out. So if you really hated the third, fourth, and fifth film, do not worry. This is finally a good Transformers movie. So for things I liked and didn't like about Bumblebee, for my positives and negatives, once again, for my first positive, this is a good Transformers movie. It's a fresh Transformers movie as well. It's fresh because it has a different director and a different vision. It has a warmer feel to it. It feels more inviting. It doesn't feel so gloomy and dark. It's not so concerned with this Decepticons coming to Earth and doing really all this bad stuff and trying to kill Bumblebee and stuff. It's in there. There's obviously villains in this movie, but it's more so about this robot and this girl connecting and them kind of feeling like outcasts and Bumblebee kind of being the only good Transformer on Earth at the time and this young girl kind of not fitting in and kind of figuring out where she's going to go with her life now that her dad's gone, and that was kind of her role model. So it's just a good Transformers movie and a fresh approach on the franchise, which is something I think Transformers needed for a long time. I also like the 80s setting and vibe of this film. This film has a ton of fun little 80s little pokes and pinches at you throughout the movie. There's Mr. T cereal. Bumblebee likes watching The Breakfast Club with Charlie, who's played by Hailee Steinfeld in the movie. There's what is there? There's like, but you know what I mean? There's things like that, like Mr. T cereal, them watching The Breakfast Club, old little tapes on records and like little ways that people would listen to music at the time and stuff like that. So tons of little fun little 80s setting and vibe kind of things. I really liked how they played Weird Science on the radio, the theme song for that. So obviously that really kind of connected with me right away because I love that movie. So the setting and vibe of this film I thought was very effective, and I like the use of the 80s setting in this movie. Hailee Steinfeld and Bumblebee I thought had great chemistry in this film. Whenever the two of them are on screen and they're interacting with each other, Hailee Steinfeld's trying to learn more about the Transformers, and Bumblebee's trying to learn about how people work and what he has to do when there's people around, and it's just not just him and Hailee Steinfeld. And I just thought whenever the two of them are on screen with each other, there's a true sense of chemistry, and that's really saying a lot for Hailee Steinfeld because think of what she had to do when they were filming this. They probably had somebody in a green screen suit as Bumblebee at the time, and it was just her there as like the only real person on the set for this part of that scene for the movie. And she had to work with basically nothing, and it really does feel like two different characters interacting, kind of bonding, and I don't know, I thought the chemistry was very, very effective in this movie. The use of Cybertron and the use of Optimus Prime I thought were handled very well. They're not a huge element of this film. Cybertron's just more so the setup for the movie. It really is just more so in the beginning and the end where they kind of depict Cybertron the most. But when they do show it, when they do kind of welcome you into that world, it really is kind of, you kind of ask yourself, how come Transformers didn't look like this all along? Because that's really kind of what I viewed a live-action Transformers film to look like. And I think that's why a lot of people are really going to respond positively to this film, because that's kind of what Transformers has always looked like. It always kind of had that bright, colorful tone. It was always on Cybertron, and I don't know. I thought the way that they depicted that was very well handled. And whenever you see Optimus Prime in this film, he's more so a supporting character in this movie. I thought his scenes were handled very well too in this movie. They also explore Bumblebee's details as to why he doesn't have a voice box, how come he became a Beetle and not a Camaro right away, how he became a Camaro later on. They depict all that stuff as and why like he uses like the radio for the way he's trying to express something and stuff because of the loss of his voice box. So they do depict all those details throughout the course of this film, and I thought it was very effective as a result. John Cena has a role in this film. He plays like this general character that really doesn't understand Bumblebee. He kind of always views him as a threat ever since he came to Earth. Him and Bumblebee didn't really get along to begin with. But I thought his character was depicted very well. I thought, when John Cena was first cast, I'm like, oh God, what kind of wrestler kind of things is he going to do? Thankfully, he plays it straight. He plays it in probably the most realistic way you can for a character like that. So I thought the way John Cena's role was handled, I thought was very well. This is a good John Cena performance from him, I thought. For my negatives, though, I thought Bumblebee was overall pretty predictable. I really wasn't too surprised with where the story went and where the things ended up and all that kind of stuff. So overall, it was kind of a predictable story. I also thought there was kind of long waits for the action scenes. It's great that there's character development, that there's a story, but I feel like the real big Transformers fans, the fans that really like the action scenes from the movies, from the earlier, Transformer films, it is kind of a long wait between the action scenes. It's in it. It's not like there's not enough action in the movie, but I thought for me personally, if it strikes an odd for someone like me who's big on story and characters, I'm like, well, this is kind of a long wait for some action scenes. I can only imagine how someone else is going to feel about that. So for me personally, I thought the waits between action scenes was a little too long of a wait sometimes. Hailee Steinfeld character Charlie, I thought her exit from the story could have been handled better, and I can't spoil it here as to why I feel like that way. But I'm kind of curious, what was she doing during the 90s? What was she doing in the early 2000s before Shia LaBeouf found Bumblebee and stuff like that? So there's some questions that didn't quite get answered in some of those kind of scenarios. And like I said, I thought her exit could have been handled better in this movie. The way they wrapped up her character, I thought could have been better handled. You would think the way they wrapped it up, she would almost want to keep Bumblebee around longer as a result. So I don't know. I thought that aspect could have been handled better. I also thought the film was a little too small scale. There's scenes where it feels like it's being treated like a small independent film when it's really this big budget Transformers movie. So I thought that aspect of the film I thought could have been handled a little better. So I don't know, maybe Travis Knight didn't get as much money as Michael Bay did when he made this movie compared to when Michael Bay made a Transformers movie. I also thought overall the film was kind of slow in some areas. There's some scenes where it feels like it's taking longer than it should to get to the next story point. So I thought that aspect of the story could have been handled better too. So overall, I'm going to give Bumblebee an 8.5 out of 10. It's a very enjoyable Transformers film. It's the first fresh installment in the franchise in quite some time. The 80s setting was fun. I love the vibe they went with. The chemistry between Hailee Steinfeld and Bumblebee was great. The use of Cybertron and Optimus Prime was very good. They explore Bumblebee's details. The John Cena's role was very good, but like I said, it is a little predictable. The waits for the action scenes are a little too long sometimes. Hailee Steinfeld's exit from the film I thought could have been handled better. The film I thought could have been benefited from a bigger scale of a film, and I thought it was kind of slow in some areas. So 8.5 out of 10 for me. I highly recommend Bumblebee. It's one of the better Transformers films we've had in a while.